You listen to us, you listen to parents, you listen to everybody. But then make your own decision. But I think art is better than science. Art is something you universally enjoy. In science, even today, 90% is a failure. Only 10% of your experiments succeed.
Welcome to the Agastya Sarga Samvad. I'm Amulya, and today we are honored to have Professor Dr. Govindarajan, a distinguished and inspiring scientist who is the winner of the Padma Bhushan, the Padma Shri, and elected Fellow of the National Academy of Medical Sciences. Thank you so much for being here. I thought I'll start with something like, very, which has influenced all of our lives, our childhood. So I would love to hear a bit about your own childhood. Where did you grow up? What activities, what games did you used to play? And what was the role of your parents, relatives, and friends during your childhood?
Actually, I was born in Kadapa. Kadapa is in Andhra Pradesh. But we are a Tamil family migrated to Karnataka. My grandfather, my mother's father, was an engineer. And, he rather high position, a civil engineer. And those days, it was called Madras Presidency. So all these, Andhra, Karnataka were all part of Madras Presidency. So he was posted there, and so he spent his life almost fully in Andhra Pradesh as an engineer. So we were all born there. We are four, and we are two brothers and two sisters. I'm the only one remaining. So everyone else is gone. So anyway, as soon as I think within a year of my birth, I was brought to Bangalore. My father worked in Padma Shri, that is the oil company, and he was working there. And he was posted in Bangalore. And then, I'm talking about 1938. Grew up in Bangalore, and then, my father again got transferred. But almost most of our lives were spent between Bangalore and probably Mysore. My father spent about 10 years, 5 plus 5 years in Mysore, actually. But, we were educated in Madras. Because those days, they will say you have to study there or something like that. So my father will be elsewhere. We will be in Madras or Chennai, as we call it now, for our education. But my earliest childhood, my father was posted in Tanjavur for 3 years, So I was there. My mother was there. So the family was there for about 3 years. And I remember, I was a kid of, say, maybe 5 years or so. I joined this Sacred Heart Convent High School. So I did 3rd standard. Then we switched over to St. Anthony's School, which is Tamil medium school, because Sacred Heart will not have boys after 3rd standard. So there, they tested me in English and I was so good. So they put me in the 6th standard.
Wow.
Yeah. So my father was very proud of this. All the time he would say, I got a triple promotion. But what happened? Of course, we moved to Chennai then, and then I finished my, we used to call it the SSLC, Secondary School Leaving Certificate, what you probably call now 10th standard. And then the rule is you can't join the college unless you are 15 and a half or something like that. So that was an issue. So all so-called triple promotion only led me to this kind of a situation. And I was crazy after cricket. So my father said, if you are going to sit at home for a year and a half or so, studies will be gone, you will be only playing cricket. So they joined me in a college called Jain College, A.M. Jain College in Madras, as a non-university student. That means, you study intermediate. Those days it was intermediate 2 years, but you have to repeat the first year again. You are there, what you call in a namke vaste. You like that, you just attend. We allow you to attend so that you don't go astray, but you have to repeat. So I did my intermediate for 3 years. My family is full of engineers. My grandfather was an engineer. My uncle was an engineer. They tried to put me in an engineering college. But for some reason, I got fascinated with chemistry. So I did not want to do engineering. So I stayed there only for a week. Then I quit. But then what happened? All admissions are over in every place. The only admission I could get was in Presidency College. Now, those days I was admitted to BSc Chemistry. But I was a bit disappointed because I got very good marks. But, there is a program called the BSc Honors. It is a 3-year program. And after doing 3 years, after one more year, not in the college, just one more year of experience, they will give you an MA degree. All these have gone now. There is no more. But I was admitted only to BSc, not BSc Honors. So I finished BSc at Presidency College. Then everybody said, what will you do? You will do MSc, and then you will become a teacher. Why don't you do something different? At that time, the Indian Agricultural Research Institute in Delhi advertised a new program, which was supported by Rotham State. So, anything foreign coming, it had its own glamour. And they had an entrance, All India entrance examination. So I wrote the All India entrance examination and I got 3rd rank or something like that. So I said, I'm going there. So I got admitted to Masters and I took soil science and agricultural chemistry. That was the only chemistry course I could go. Otherwise, it is all plant agri-based courses there. So I joined this department of soil science and agricultural chemistry. And I did very well. And, I had a project in biochemistry. And the head of the biochemistry department, section was Dr. N.B. Das. Very fantastic individual, very nice person, very gentle person. He had worked with St. George. I don't know whether you have heard St. George. He discovered the Warburg apparatus. He got Nobel Prize. And he told me, if you are interested in biochemistry, you should go to Bangalore. It's not the place for me. So after MSc, I came to Bangalore to do my, and then to do my PhD. I joined the Indian Institute of Science, not as a student, but in a project, basically. Because it was the middle of the year, 1961 January. It's almost 60 years now. 1961 January, I joined. And my guru was P.S. Sarma. P stands for Padvidri. It's South Karnataka. It's Karnataka, South Canara person. He was in the biochemistry department of Madras University. But we had a new director, Satish Dhawan, who invited him to head the biochemistry department in Bangalore. And he became the head of the biochemistry department. And he had this project and they joined him. And then I became a regular PhD student. So this is basically from my birth to PhD entry.
I'm curious now, was there, you had, it sounds like you had a lot of interest growing up, among them being cricket. But do you remember, was there a moment when you became interested in science?
I was in Presidency College. Presidency College, I don't know. I have not been there for years, but it had a awe and glory. One of the oldest colleges, the corridor. And that one place you could do research. And there was one professor who became principal subsequently. Then he became director of SIBA, Dr. T.R. Govindarajan. He was a great organic chemist, internationally known organic chemist. And when we walked through the corridor, we will be chatting loudly. And when his room comes, we will all be very quiet because somebody is doing research. And we will peep in, and the lab was adjoined, and they will all be wearing white coats. And, that was a big, big thing for us. Yes, I thought I should also wear the coat. So I should also be doing research. And my first inspiration was Govindarajan. And that happened in Presidency College. And my second inspiration was Dr. N.B. Das in IR. I told him, he said, if you want to do biochemistry, because he worked with St. George, was a Nobel laureate, and Das worked with him. So that was the big thing, that he worked with a Nobel laureate. Third one, of course, is in Bangalore. My guru, P.S. Sharma, he gave a lot of freedom. He was basically a nutritionist, trained in Wisconsin, actually, with LVM, was a great scientist. But he was the one who told me, okay, you will do research, you will publish papers, but I want application. I want to see whether something reaches the society. My first project was on laterism. There's a disease called neurolaterism in central parts of India, where people have, you still have photographs. If you look at bent knees, they can't walk, they need a stick. And for some reason, this lateral sativus, known as Kesaridal, was related to that disease. They all consume. It's the cheapest dal that is available in the market. It's a weed, Laterus sativus, grows very well. It doesn't need watering. So they used to harvest that. The central India, mostly tribal population, they will eat and then suffer from this. And there was this, but still being argued whether consuming that dal is the reason or some other reason. We went ahead. Of course, I gave this project to my colleague, Sel and Robert. I was involved all along. Isolated a neurotoxin known as beta-N-oxalyl diaminopropionic acid. When we proved it's a neurotoxin, people still question whether that is involved in neurolaterism. If you inject into the brain, any animal brain, it will produce paralysis of the legs.
Correct.
But does it really cross the blood-brain barrier? People consuming the dal. And because we fed animals with this dal, they didn't get it. But if you take the toxin and inject it into the brain, they will get paralysis. So is there any lack of nutrition that allows this molecule to cross the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain? I never answered. But this molecule, I made a lot of those days, very difficult to import chemicals in India. We needed ATP and some of these molecules. But so there was a lot of demand for this oxalyl diaminopropionic acid internationally because it's a neurotoxin. And it turned out to be a glutamate agonist and all that. So a lot of people were interested in receptor study. And they will go to Sigma and ask for this molecule. And Sigma will tell us whether you can give us. So we used to isolate it from this dal and exchange this molecule for ATP and other biochemicals, which importing was very difficult. So that way, we used to send a gram of this molecule and get whatever we want from Sigma.
On the theme now, I would love to stay you've made so many discoveries. Is there a discovery you're most proud of and why?
Most proud of, I worked on this molecule called heme. Hemoglobin contains heme. Cytochromes contain heme. All organisms basically will make heme. Heme is very vital. Heme is the one that transports oxygen. When we breathe, etc., we say hemoglobin does it. But I was not, a lot of people, Kendrew, for example, they're all Nobel laureates who worked on hemoglobin structure, myoglobin structure. But I was interested in how heme is made in the body. It's a small molecule, it is a porphyrin that contains iron. And how it is synthesized? That was my question, and does it have a role in regulation? That's where I, started.
Got it.
And it led to a lot of studies, a lot of publications, a lot of students. But what I'm really proud of is that led me to work on malaria. I'll come to it, the history behind the malaria research. The parasite makes heme. So I wondered, this is after 25 years of heme with rat liver and Neurospora crassa and all that. But when you come to the parasite, the question is, why does it make heme? Because parasite has 3 stages. And the first stage is it lives in the blood, what we call the asexual parasite. And it gets all its food from hemoglobin. And it gets tons of heme from hemoglobin. In fact, heme is so toxic that it has to detoxify that heme. But it was crazy, but it makes heme. So this question still recently was not answered actually. But we published that parasite makes heme. And nobody believed this question. Why should it make heme? It gets tons of heme from hemoglobin. Why should it make heme? But then the malaria parasite falciparum, Plasmodium falciparum, the whole genome was sequenced in the early 2000s. And they found what we call as putative genes of the entire heme pathway. Then they believed, the putative genes are there, so these guys must be right. That was one of a proud moment for me that we discovered the heme pathway in the malaria parasite.
So going back now, one of the goals of this series is to inspire young children. And I was curious if now you had to give advice to your 10-year-old self, what advice might you give them?
No, I give this advice. Do as your heart tells you. You listen to us, you listen to parents, you listen to everybody. But then make your own decision. That is my advice all the time to young people. I have dealt with a lot of students, not only students, a whole lot of community in the country. Even now, young people, old people, middle-aged people write to me emails. People ask me at 84, why are you going to the institute? What are you doing there? This is also a part of the job. This is somebody or the other has a problem. It may be a technical problem. It may be a personal problem. It may be a student. It may be a faculty. So I meet still a lot of people. I counsel them. And what all we have gone through, our disappointments in science, our discoveries in science, applications, And of course, these days people are very aggressive. You are pretty young, I tell you. People are very aggressive in the sense, please nominate me for Bhatnagar Award. Please nominate me for Padma Shri. All these. But I patiently nominate them. But the problem is, if they don't get, they will get very depressed. These are all bright people. So I tell them, this is not the end of the world. Of course, some guys will tell, sir, you have got all that, now you can say that. But I still tell them, I never went to anybody asking me to nominate for this or that, At some time, the society will recognize what you have done. But, days have changed. These are people who really, and probably much more competitive than our times. So they have to probably be aggressive.
You touched upon a very important point about the role of failures. Could you tell me about a moment which now looking back was vital to your success, but at that time it felt like a failure?
I was interested, started with molecular biology. Probably the first one to start, maybe 60 years ago or 55 years ago. And I want to do it in the animal system, what we call as higher organisms. And that was the time where the axiom was, what is true of E. coli is true of elephant. All the Nobel Prizes were in microbial systems. And then people thought, if you work there, then only you are a molecular biologist. I wanted to work on higher organisms. Then everybody would say, it's a black box. You can't do it. Then, of course, human genome sequence of much later has been announced and things like that. A lot of people have. So I was interested in the recombinant DNA. I didn't know this name, recombinant DNA. It was not there at that time. Interested in that subject, putting DNA. I wanted to take DNA and put it in a flower and then see will it change. In fact, I took the DNA home, isolated it from system, and I thought, if I think I isolated from carrots. And I thought if I put it in greens, if you put the DNA there, will carrots be there at the bottom of the earth, inside the earth? Over the earth, it will be green, but under the earth, it will be carrot. I couldn't do that experiment. But, what I'm trying to tell is, I did think about recombinant DNA very early. But I never, when everybody criticized me, this is not the work you do, DNA will not get into the cell, what are you trying to do? So this was in early 70s, So, but then it became a huge field, and today, recombinant DNA. So that is a kind of a regret for me. Maybe I should have had the guts to go ahead and do some of these experiments. But I didn't do it. So it's no point in telling, I also thought about recombinant DNA. Nobody will believe. So that was a disappointment.
Got it. Yeah. You talked about one of the biggest advice you give everyone is to follow their heart, right? Like,
yes.
And for young people, how do you find where your heart is? Like, how do you find your passions? What would be some tips you would give them to figure out?
That's right. They have passion. I remember sitting in biochemistry department, we used to interview students for PhD and ask them, what is your interest? They will say molecular biology. Even today, I find people, young students coming to me in biology. I said, what is your interest? Molecular biology. What in molecular biology? Molecular biology is like biochemistry. You should tell what you are. Then they don't know, but they want to do molecular biology like that. You see, so then we will tell, break it down. What are you interested in molecular biology? First of all, which system you want to look at? You want to look at a microbial system, a fungal system, you want to work with the animal system, or you want to work with the human. Today, if you have to really make any application, it's a human. All these must be applicable to the human. That is one. And one thing I have seen, young kids, especially school children, advanced, they were very excited. Even now, if I get an invitation in a school, I don't refuse. The children are very excited. Then they will say, I'll ask them, what do you want to do? I want to solve cancer. Then I tell them, so you don't know cancer is an extraordinarily complex disease. No, sir, we can work on it. I want to do it. See, people at that age, very excited about, I'm talking about those who are not pushed into computer science. A whole lot of them, the parents will push them into computer science, and that's the channel you have to go. So they don't even question. But there are a few who think, I want to do biology, I want to do chemistry, or I want to do physics. So like that, this is something, when I tell them you follow your heart, I only meant, I'll probe them a little more. What is your interest? Many have told me, I am interested in molecular biology. That is one thing that attracted a lot of, at least those who don't get into computer science. That has been their great interest, actually.
You mentioned that now, you're like a lot of people are directed towards computer science, and you also go to schools and teach sciences. If you could now design a class for Agastya where you could try to get children interested in the natural sciences, what would that class look like?
No, first of all, science, I believe in experimental science. theory is okay, theoretical science is okay, computer science, for example, I asked them, yes, you have all wonderful, you can design a molecule, you can see the molecule, all in the computer. But that will not cure the disease. You need to have this molecule real, the test tube. And then probably in a bioreactor, you have to scale it up or you have to synthesize. You would have this molecule. That means you need experimental science. Many times when you do, it doesn't work. What works in the computer, you may say this is the way the molecule should work. You test a molecule, animal model. It doesn't work that way. Because biology is very complex. Then you discover why it failed. Of course, you can publish a paper that tells why it failed. What I'm trying to say, I will design a class which is experimentally oriented.
That is Agastya's principle too, with experiential learning. And apart from biology, what else might you teach?
Maybe a bit of chemistry. My basic degree was in chemistry. I can do a bit of chemistry. Of course, I got very much interested in application of technology to agriculture. But I hold a master's degree in soil science and agricultural chemistry, but not agronomy or agriculture per se. But people know me in the field because I'm a great proponent of recombinant DNA. What is that? GMO, genetically modified organisms. I get into trouble because of my support to. There are, huge lot of people who believe it is dangerous. But I do believe, even now there are application of that to agriculture is very vital for India. Technology is the one that is going to change agriculture, but somehow it is not happening actually.
Today, agriculture is barely taught in schools, like even though it's such a vital value to our.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think? Like, is there a future where we can have younger kids also being exposed to the science of agriculture through practical what do you see can happen in that field?
It may happen because now I think the new education policy probably give all these multiple subjects to be taught actually. What has happened in India, we have compartmentalization. Everything is compartmentalized. For example, I used to go to Chicago. Of course, I went only after I got a job in IISc. I used to go repeatedly to the same lab. I went to the lab for 10 times, that Mara Rabinovich lab. And every time I go, they will put a student with me because I was staying only a short period, 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, like that. And I will ask him, what are you doing? I'm here with footnote. I'm very much interested in the research. Then what are the other? I do logic. They will say, other thing I do is music. That society or their syllabi. In fact, it's not as good as what taught in India. Our people are thorough, but very bookish in the sense, if I'm in biology, I'm cut off from mathematics long back. And math is so important for biology now. So this is they have options. He is doing logic, doing economics, also biology. And then he will say, no, I will decide. After all this, I will decide whether I want to do logic. I may not do biology at all. That options, we don't have in India. That is where agriculture became separate stream altogether. That would change, I believe, with this new education policy.
So, what are your hobbies apart from research and writing books and mentoring people?
Mentoring is, I really enjoy talking to students, young people. Of course, even old people come, that's different. They have different problems. But I'm mad after cricket. Used to be, not now. I don't even watch now. I used to play because I was a reasonably good player. I was playing for a league team in Delhi. And then when I came to Bangalore in the Institute of Science, also we had a team. I used to be playing, but of course, the Indian Institute of Science cricket team was not great, nothing to boast about. But still I used to play. So I was mad after cricket at one point of time. That was my hobby. See, in my family, everybody learns classical music, Carnatic music. So my brother learned, my sister learned. So I used to be watching. I had a reasonably good voice. I still have a good voice at this age. So I learned music. I learned Carnatic music for 15 years. So that is another hobby. Music is my passion, other than science. And it's very interesting. If you come to the Institute of Science, you will see several scientists interested in music. For some reason, there is a connection between science and music. Many scientists are very good in music, actually. They may not be vocalists. They may play some instrument, something. But, it gives you, in fact, I think I wrote in my memoir, finally, I have done a lot of science, but I think art is better than science.
In what way?
Because, science, despite the fact you are establishing your truth, it remains true only till somebody else has not experimentally proven it is something else. But art is something you universally enjoy. You see, if somebody is singing well, or somebody is, whatever is their thing, you have a drawing, let's say you are a painting. It will be a huge appreciation. I mean, the way people react to art, I thought science is much more compartmentalized. I have discovered the heme pathway and I will make a presentation, and those who are working in the field will appreciate me. That's it. Of course, science. That is why I, went on pushing that. If science has to have a meaning, it should have an application to society. Otherwise, science has no meaning, in my opinion. There are a lot of people say you should do science for science sake. But I believe science, good science, of course, you can't get a good application without good science. That is important. But I believe, you have to have it. That is why, I went into turmeric, curcumin. I went to malaria. Our thing is we are in clinical trial now. See, after so many years, so many decades. The only problem is it takes that much time.
It sounds like in science you need like extreme resilience and patience because things take long and you have like failures throughout the process. What are some coping mechanisms? It sounds like music is one thing that could perhaps also. Are there other strategies that you have found that have helped you stay like resilient and move, like, continue pushing for your field?
You rightly said, music was one of my big, what should I say, ease the tension or whatever. But I always try to practice. In science, even today, any lab, 90% is a failure. I should tell you. Only 10% of your experiments succeed. If all experiments succeed, this world will not be like this. So you should be prepared. In science, you plan everything, you do this, you do computer, you do all this. But experimentally, it may not work. You should be prepared for that. So that, I try to, balance. Yes, maybe the next experiment will work. Maybe the next one. But I never got depressed beyond a point to not to come back. There are some who got, that is where they want somebody to tell them, this is not the end of the world. There are other things to do. So music has been one, and the other one is my own temperamentally. See whether you can cope up with, we know science is 90% failure, only 10% will succeed.
Could you describe what your day looks like when you wake up? Like, and how has that evolved over time?
I will start as a young scientist. I don't think I knew. I went to the lab before my children had got up. I went to home, they had gone to bed. So for a long time, I didn't know which standard they are studying. I should say the entire thing was managed by my wife. She used to admit them to the school. So I always, when guests come once in a while, I will meet them. I'll be a bit confused. I don't know whether it's in the 7th standard or 8th standard, I will tell my own child. So that was like what should I say, completely involved in science. That over a period, I think it has evolved, and I should be grateful to the family, who really took care of the whole thing. Because even now, I have not gone to a shop to buy anything. I have not gone to a bank to draw money. Even now, I don't know how to. In fact, I keep telling my daughter is here, my son is here. You should tell me some of these processes. I may have a situation where I have to go to the bank myself. But fortunately, these days, everything is coming online. So I know. In fact, I wrote it, I think, in a memoir. And it somehow it got into some places in North India. And they put it in the newspaper. Scientists not gone to a shop for 30 years. The heading. So somebody cut that newspaper for me and sent it. See what we have got.
So I would like to ask the last question, which is more of a light-hearted question. What is your favorite recipe with curcumin?
Oh, curcumin, turmeric powder. I should tell you, curcumin is a molecule in turmeric. So we add turmeric in every preparation in India, especially South Indian preparation, turmeric.
Yeah.
So I like them, but that's different. But the important thing is this curcumin molecule. And it is described from Vedic times. That means it's been used for so many, from cough, cold, asthma. If you have a wound, apply it. But it's still not a drug. In fact, I was wrote articles, etc. It can be a very good preventive for COVID. I was telling, there are people who can. There are a company which is in Hyderabad, known as Genix. That company has made a molecule, a capsule of actually organically grown turmeric with a little bit of pepper. Because curcumin is metabolized easily, and this prevents metabolism. And they have given it to a lot of people, huge consumption of those capsules. And these days, they are all prevented from COVID, most of them.
Got it.
Still not a scientific study, because I said you have to do a proper scientific study, but it is all anecdotal. But still, and they made this capsule named as GP capsule. And it's honor me, it seems. So it's known as GP capsule. And I want to tell you, Govindarajan is my father's name.
Okay.
Govindarajan Padmanaban. Padmanaban is my name. And when I went to Chicago, I had to make it GP because they can't pronounce all. That's how GP comes in.
Yeah, on that note, thank you so much, Professor Padmanaban. Thank you for being so honest and giving us a glimpse into your amazing, interesting life as a scientist. I'm sure a lot of young people will be inspired, especially that it's not always hunky-dory, right? There are challenges which people have to overcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a great pleasure for me talking. Yeah.